Hi everybody, this is going to be a video about the oral language components of science of reading. And I've got immediately up here a diagram that many of you will be familiar with from the state reading trainings that you may have done, and hopefully from some other sources as well. This is a diagram that was originally drawn up by Hollis Scarborough, who was a researcher interested in oral language and vocabulary. And in her work, she went back to the old Philip Goff idea of the simple view of reading, which I'll just bring up here. This simple view of reading article from way back in 1990, Hoover and Goff, just put forward what you see in the diagram here, which is that, well, am I going to bring it back? There we go. The diagram, which shows us that if someone is struggling with reading, and they are struggling with word recognition, they're not going to get better if you don't work on that with them. If someone is struggling with reading and they're having difficulty with language comprehension, they're not going to get better at reading until you address that as well. And that's basically what the simple view of reading says. And a lot of people have made way too much of it, and some people have been too dismissive of that approach to thinking about kids who are struggling with reading. But it also gives us some important tools to help more kids get towards strengths with reading. The key thing that I want to emphasize here is that in many of the programs that you might see coming your way, you're going to see a lot of attention given to helping kids gain strengths in word identification, with phonological awareness and phonemic awareness, with reading, phonics, and sight word, and we should probably say high frequency word instead of sight word recognition. But you do want these skills to get towards automaticity so that kids aren't stopping to think every moment that they're trying to look at a word. The problem with putting only focus here, though, is that these two things have to come together, and I really like to emphasize this spot where you see them cross over, and you see them cross over here again and again and again. And these crossovers cannot happen by accident. We actually have to construct them and plan for them. So if we're doing phonics instruction and phonemic awareness instruction, we need to bring it back towards background knowledge, vocabulary knowledge, language structures, all of this oral language. And the key thing that I want to emphasize here is that this area, language comprehension, it's huge. It starts from birth. It's natural. It has everything to do with language that kids bring from their L1, from their first language, their home language, the language they learn with their friends, the language they learn at school. That's possibly a second language or a third language for some kids. But it's huge to start with, and it's expansive. It just keeps getting bigger and stronger as kids get more and more opportunities. And so this diagram of the ropes, it does have more to it, but this rope should just be way bigger and thicker, and that this rope should stay probably about the same size, because these word identification skills, such as phonemic awareness and decoding, they're vital, they're absolutely necessary, but they're also narrow and finite, which means that, well, for example, you can't learn more letters once you've learned all the letters. As soon as you know all of the letters and you're really fluent with them, you can't get more letters in there. It stops. Same thing with phonological and phonemic awareness. Once you've learned the phonology, the sounds, and the way syllables are put together in English, you don't learn more of that. It kind of stops, but it needs to come together with comprehension. Mentor of mine here at UNC, Michael Opitz, always used to say that phonics is a tool for comprehension, and he was emphasizing this moment where the two come together. So anytime we're doing phonics instruction, we want to be leading back towards some complex language, some actual texts that we use. So that might be things we're reading aloud with the kids. It might be oral storytelling that we're doing with kids. It might be nursery rhymes. It might be songs. It might even be conversation. We want to bring our decoding skills back over towards all of this stuff that's about knowledge in the world and so on. And I'm going to emphasize for you that this is something that we know from scientific studies. So I'm going to pull up a website here. I think I've put these resources in the modules for the course. So in this issue of Language Magazine, Tim Shanahan and Christopher Lonergan did some summarizing of the National Early Literacy Panel. And I'll post that National Early Literacy Panel report as well. This same article was reprinted here in Feed Me Words, a nice website to go to about oral language. I'm just going to highlight this specific spot here. So complex aspects of oral language. When we are talking about oral language and its complexity and the way that that predicts scientifically reading success later on, is that listening comprehension needs to involve complex aspects of oral language. And what they really clearly identify here is that the simple approaches to oral language, like flashcards with pictures, just don't do much for reading comprehension. Kids need language experiences, speaking and listening, that involve full sentences, paragraphs, stories, and things that you have to get, things you have to understand, things you have to comprehend. And most of the decodable texts that you're going to get with your phonics instruction don't have deep comprehension. The sentences are really simple, and the illustrations are simple and usually one-to-one correspondence to the words that are there. And sometimes the decodable texts just don't have much to them. So we want more than that with our kids with oral language. So the National Early Literacy Panel report, let's just bring that up quick. You'll see this in your course materials, Developing Early Literacy. This was a summary of all of the scientific research that was available up until 2009. And it's fairly conclusive that kids need these oral language experiences if we're going to hope for them to learn how to read. So that is why we come back to speech genres. So let's go ahead and open that up. Speech genres are sources of complex speech. So when the scientific research tells us that we need complex oral language in our classroom, that might mean, yes, that we bring in picture books and do read-alouds and discussions, things that you're probably already familiar with, but we also want to invite in conversations, oral storytelling, joke-telling, riddling, singing, reciting verse. All of these things that we can do without a book in front of us are things that are going to give us language that is complex enough to talk about what does it mean, what does it make you feel, why does it do that, how does it work, what do you think about it, and what do other people think about it. So speech genres are the natural extension of this idea of teaching complex language. And I want to bring that out there just because we know that as we move forward with instruction, that things just get tighter and tighter, that we have more and more to do, and curriculum becomes less and less flexible and so on. But I want to let you know that without oral language, your reading curriculum probably will not succeed for the kids who need it the most. We need to be constantly bringing language comprehension to the fore so that we have authentic things that kids understand, where we can bring their phonics and spelling knowledge towards those. And what might that look like? If a kid tells a personal story and you're working on a specific phonics moment, you want to take some of those words, the key words that the kid uses in their personal story, and show them, oh, this word has these sounds and these letters in it, and give them that word so that they know that the words they're using in speech actually correspond to the words that they can see in print. The same thing would be true if kids know a song. If kids know a song, giving them the lyrics to that song, and then pointing out in the lyrics to that song where their phonics lessons or their phonemic awareness lessons apply inside of that song. That's building this bridge. And what we see too frequently is we see phonics instruction over here, and we might see a read aloud over here, and we might see teachers singing a song over here, and then we'll go back and we'll do some phonemic awareness or some flashcard type vocabulary activities that are just focused on one word or one pattern at a time. this is the moment that we need to be thinking about, because this is where we're going to get kids making breakthroughs into thinking, oh, I really do want to pay attention to these phonics lessons, because it's not just what the teacher's telling me to do, it's going to help me know the words that I know already from my mind and from my own speaking and from my listening. So in my mind, this area here, language comprehension, depends in school on us bringing speech genres to the front of the curriculum.